Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. And we are live. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the Hoof Podcast as we get you ready for week 9 of the NFL.
Yeah, already almost halfway through the season. Crazy, right? It just flies by. What happened? It was just August, wasn't it? Now
Right.
it's November.
So this is technically halfway now, right? So 18
Yeah, right.
weeks.
8.5 weeks in, 8 games
Week
in.
9. Hard to
8.5.
believe, even with the extended schedule, that we are halfway through the NFL season already. And, this is the time of year it starts to get fun, right? Records mean something now. 5-2 is a lot different than 2-5, right? There's big separation. Fantasy football's heating up if you're into that type of stuff. I know my leagues are heating up pretty good. 5-3 in one league, just standard, and also the Guillotine League still alive.
I think for the first time I went 7-0 in my fantasy leagues. First time I've cut down this year to 7, which was difficult, but last week was the first time I think ever that I went a straight 7-0 and won across the board. So that was nice. Yeah. Good fantasy week. I was 5-1-1 on the picks for the week. Another Thursday win, and then 5-1 or 4-1-1 for the pick 6, which is awesome. Still, I'm at like 69% on the picks now, which is amazing. Still bringing it in, cashing it in. Unbelievable. Loving the season so far. And our Bills are dominating the AFC still, even though they put up a little bit of a stinker of a game, in my opinion. So they've got a lot to improve on this week as well.
Teams get bored, though. When you're up three scores in every game, it's like, can somebody do something different? The Bills it doesn't look hard for them right now.
Yeah. They just decided to let everybody run on them in that game. Like, oh, okay, you want 100 yards? Sure. You can have 100 yards. You can have 100 yards.
But
we're still going to beat you by 10.
Bills are up 3 scores, and the Packers can only run the ball, so that's all they did, and they're running their own clock out.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, let's just go home. Let's just go home.
Wild.
So it makes sense, yeah. Halloween happening this week.
Absolutely. My favorite holiday. How could I forget? Did you see my costume? A picture of my costume?
Yes, Curious
my
George.
son and I did Curious George and the Man in the Yellow Hat, his favorite show. And it was a lot of fun. I love dressing up. I love doing all that. We went to a few trunk or treats. This was the first year he was really into it. And that moment when he saw me put on the hat and he knew what character I was and his eyes lit up and he was like so excited. I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life for sure, because that was just awesome that he looked at me and he knew, and he's like, oh, now I get it. It was very cute, very adorable.
Yeah, that's Terrible Twos, right?
Almost. Yeah. He'll be 2 in January. Yeah. So
okay, yeah, it starts to get fun. So they say.
Yeah, he's a good kid. We're lucky.
Yeah. Yep. That's what everyone says, right?
Sure.
No, I'm kidding.
I hope so. I hope, man, he lets us sleep. He sleeps. There's no major issues, knock on wood. Let's hope that continues through the next year, through the Terrible 2.
Yeah, if it's good, keep it rolling, right? That's just how it goes. I wouldn't know. I don't have kids.
Well, maybe. We'll see. Someday when you do, you'll understand.
One day I'll call you and I'll be like, okay, I get what you're saying now.
Yeah, there you go.
My kid's the best kid on earth.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's get into it. We have a Thursday night game coming up tonight. First things first, Eagles at the Texans. Again, terrible Thursday night matchup here.
Yeah,
really, there's only been like one matchup that was decent, and that was the Cardinals Saints. Do the Texans have a chance?
At least we know points will be scored, right? This is going to be a points scored game. We're going to see touchdowns, lots of them probably on Thursday Night Football. I don't think Houston. I think they can score. I think they could put up 20 points, and it wouldn't surprise me. But the Eagles are probably going to pound them, especially on offense. They're going to attack those cornerbacks. They're going to, run well. I think they're going to control the game pretty much start to finish. Houston might have a few good plays in them to get those touchdowns or points, or maybe in garbage time, but I'm taking Philly minus 13.5. That's 2 touchdowns. I think they win by that. And I'm going over on the 45 because I do think it could be like a 38-20 or 17 type game. I was dead on the score last week for Thursday Night Football. I'm back on my winning ways with Thursday Night Football. So,
Yeah,
so
you only lost 2 or you only lost 1 on the season, right?
only one on the season so far. So we're
That's
week
pretty
5,
good.
and I'm 7-1 on Thursday Night Football. So
Yeah, that's pretty good. Houston now is currently in position to have the second pick in the draft. 1-5-1. Got to think quarterbacks on that list. Looks like they have a piece in Damian Pierce.
yeah, he's
Talk
looking
about
good.
that throughout. The defense looks decent at times. They just can't stop the run. And Philadelphia probably just because it's Thursday night. AJ Brown had the huge Sunday game. I think they just get in here, run the football down their throat, and call it a day.
Yeah.
But so who you taking? You're taking the Eagles.
Philly with the minus 13.5. I
Nice,
just
man.
think they're going to
That's
win by
huge points.
It's
here, though.
huge. It is, and especially for a Thursday, like you said, coming off of a big game, they could just, maybe they're going to do what the Bills did that we were just talking about, and they're going to be up by 3 scores, and then just be like, you know what, we don't even care anymore, and then win by 10 points, which would beat it. So
so I'm going to go Philly as well, just because the Brandon Cooks drama. He's not traded now. He's frustrated. Does that impact the locker room? To me, I think it does with this short turnaround. He's your best player, right? Mm-hmm. He's the best player on offense, no doubt. I mean, Damian Pierce, sure, you could argue that, but Cooks is your veteran. Everyone looks up to that guy, right?
And Nico Collins, their young wide receiver, is out for this game as well. So, yeah, tough sledding here.
Tough sledding for sure. Eagles continue to go undefeated, 8-0, right? Give them credit. I think they get it here. And I'm going under just because it's Thursday night. And we've only seen one game with a lot of scoring, and that's the Cardinals and
True.
Saints. So, next game, Vikings at the Commanders.
Yeah, this is the first game that's actually in my pick 6. I am taking the Vikings, surprise, surprise, -3. And I'm taking them to win the game, obviously. I just think, although the Commanders have turned it on lately and are starting to be the team that I predicted they would be in the preseason, I don't think that they have the firepower to get past a good Minnesota Vikings team. I do think Washington puts up a fight here. So I was, this is not my number 1 pick of the week. This is my number 3 or 4, I guess, 3 from the bottom, number 4 pick of the week, because of the potential for Washington to put up a fight and maybe lose by 1 point, which would kill the spread, or only, Minnesota winning by 3, which would be right on the money. I do think Minnesota wins by maybe 4, like 20-24. I could see it being somewhere in that range. So for that reason, I'm also taking the over by just a point in my prediction there, but that's enough to give me the over.
So this is your number 4 most confident bet of the week.
Exactly.
Minnesota on the list every single week, but that's been working for you at 6-1.
I know, right? Exactly. And Minnesota is due for an upset at some point in the season.
Right. And this could be it with Tyler Heineke. There's energy in this Commanders team now.
Exactly.
They're back to 500.
I agree. It could be, but you're looking at a 6-1 team that's 6-1 for a reason, and a 4-4 team that's 4-4 for a reason. The defense has been playing better, but I don't think that they can contend with the likes of Jefferson and Cook and the rest of that. Minnesota, TJ Hawkinson now, right? Who knows what he's going to do? That's
huge
a big difference maker for them. Oh, yeah, it is. It is.
And Detroit. What are you doing?
I know. Oh, certainly, you don't want to see Irv Smith go down their tight end, their previous starting tight end, who's now on the IR.
Right.
But you get TJ Hawkinson. I mean, that's
Detroit's your division. Now Detroit has to play him twice a week or twice a year. I mean, that's mind blowing to me, and that's why you're the Detroit Lions. And I'm not saying that lightly. It's just like I was,
brutal.
People are rooting for them, but like it's like the Bills trading, and let's say Hawkinson wasn't their best player. Yeah. He's a unique talent. I don't think they developed Hawkinson into what he could be. He's not a Travis Kelce type guy right now. At least they don't use him that way. Those traits are still there. I think he still could become.
You're on record being in love with TJ Hawkinson on this podcast.
How can you
4 years ago? Yeah.
Any tight end that gets drafted in the top 10 tells you what the NFL community feels about them. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Kyle Pitts, Noah Fant, and TJ Hawkinson are the only ones of late.
Certainly, and of those, TJ is certainly
because they're rare, they're unique. Like we talked about, there's only about 6 guys in the league that can do 75% of what Travis Kelce does for the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Hawkinson's one of those guys, if you can
Definitely.
get into the right offensive coaching system, somebody who knows how to use him and
I
knows how
mean,
to develop into that.
look
Maybe
at their
Minnesota
offensive
can do that.
weapons. As much shit as people give their quarterback, right? I mean, Cousins, like look at their weapons right now, right? You have Dalvin Cook at running back, one of the best running backs in the league. Then you've got Jefferson, then you've got Thielen, then you've got, TJ Hawkinson. This is a insane depth chart right now. And I think that only helps a quarterback like Cousins because he doesn't have to thrive and look super. He's just got to get it done. And I think he continues to do that.
All right, so I'm gonna pick now. I'm gonna go Minnesota. I think the spread's a little too low. If it was like +5, I would consider the
That would
Commanders
be
here.
exactly.
But at 3, I gotta go Minnesota. Again, I just like their weapons, right? Justin Jefferson. I think the Commanders play him tough, but the defense will be too good for Heineke. Won't have a chance to lead him down and score in the last drive. And I'm gonna go over on 43.5 here.
All right.
All right, next one. The 6-1 Buffalo Bills travel to New York to play. To New Jersey to
That's
play the
right.
New York Jets. 5-3. Look, Zach Wilson's got to be better. That's just where we're at.
3 picks in the last game against New England. I mean,
they weren't
basically
like
a wall for him.
They weren't mistakes. Like Josh Allen had 2 picks in that game. Okay, he's trying to do a little too much. So, but the thing with Zach Wilson is everyone's kind of waiting to see when's he going to take over a game. And why when is the team going to win because of Zach Wilson? Right? So far since he got back from injury, we've basically just seen, okay, don't screw it up. Throw the ball 18 times a game,
right.
Make a good play here and there. But this last game, the call was there. Hey, let's win the game with Zach Wilson. And the guy, he just blew it. Ugly, nasty picks. Things you shouldn't see at this stage. Right.
Right. He's just rolling out and throwing it out there, it
Right.
seems, right? He rolls out and he just heaves it up.
Slings it. Yeah.
The Jets do have a good defense, though. Very good defense this year.
Sure.
I mean, at all levels, maybe weak at linebacker, but Sauce Gardner playing at a caliber to win the defensive rookie of the year. That D line of theirs shutting down the run and getting after the pass,
right?
The quarterback. I mean, they're really good on defense.
We're one roughing the passer call away from the Jets being 6-2 right now.
Yeah,
and this maybe being a divisional type game.
That's right. Yeah. And look at the line for this game. The spread, I think, is a little disrespectful to the Jets here. 11.5. I mean, yes, Wilson isn't playing great, but the Bills just again put up a stinker really against the Packers, a shit team in the NFL right now. And you're playing a hot team in the Jets on their turf, and you're an 11.5 point favorite. I'm a Bills fan, and I'm saying this. This is not a bet I'm confident in at 11.5 points. Do I think the Bills could come out here and dominate and crush them and make it a 45-0 game? Certainly, the Bills have the potential to do that. Do they have the momentum, and is that something I'm predicting right now? No, because the Jets are better than people are giving them credit for.
Sure.
And the Bills, again, are coming off a game where they took a step back, not a step forward. So I think this line should be closer to like 6 or 7, not 11.5. In my official picks, I picked the Bills because they're my team, and I'm not going to pick against them even at 11.5. I think they can beat the Jets by 2 scores. I do think Zach Wilson has a couple more interceptions, and the Bills get 3 turnovers here. But I'm not betting this game. I'm staying away from 11.5 points.
I agree with you. I wouldn't bet this game either because both teams have, purpose this week too, right? Yeah. Bills were getting criticized for only winning by 10. They did look lackadaisical, right? There was mistakes made on both sides of the ball for the Bills. So, the fan base, us included, are criticizing them like, what the hell was that? But the Jets, though, literally blew the game. They should have beat the Patriots.
Yeah.
If you watch the game, I think the Jets were the better team. They just kind of, shit their pants late.
They really should have. They definitely should have. And that end of the half stuff, right. Yeah, I mean, it was just
and internally, they know that. Their coach was heated. He was furious about the roughing the passer call. That was a pick 6 that was called back, right? Kind of weird that a roughing the passer call influences the game that much. It should be the ball's already out of the quarterback's hand. You know what I'm saying? It's intercepted, and then you get the
We've talked about this
roughing,
before. Those
but
plays should be reviewable.
they
If
should
everything
be
else is
sure.
reviewable,
And I
look
think
at it
there was,
again and see if you got the right call.
I think there was some refs that said it was roughing the passer, and the refs got that one right. But should it take back a big play like that? That's what kills me. It happened after the guy threw the ball. Anyway, they know that the challenge is ahead. They know no one's picking them. So Zach Wilson, he's getting criticized more than he has since he's been with the Jets.
This could be his bounce back game.
This could be, and so the challenge is there. The motivation is there for the Jets
certainly
to play well.
The Bills have to be on their toes in this game. Don't come out like you did against the Green Bay stinking Packers, right? That pile of crap team, because this team will punch you in the face and you're not going to get up from it, okay? Because they're good on defense and they will score and do everything else and not put the game in Zach Wilson's hand and not have to if you play like you did against Green Bay. But both defenses here, can we give them credit here, right? Both defenses, very good defenses. I'm taking the under for this game, and I feel more confident about that than I do the results of the game because, I don't see this being a shootout or anything, and I do think that, both the Bills are going to hold the Jets and the Jets are going to hold the Bills, and it's going to be a more low-scoring affair, maybe 20-17 or something like that.
You're taking the under, and you're taking the Bills.
Because it's the Bills.
I'm going to take the Jets here.
Yeah, with the points, I don't
Just
blame
the points because it is a divisional game.
It is.
And the Jets are going to give it their all. And I still think the Bills win because that pass rush is going to be too much for Zach Wilson.
Oh, yes.
They're not going to be able to use Garrett Wilson down the field. You're going to have to throw underneath, and the Bills are so good at coming up and tackling.
The difference very well could be a couple of Zach Wilson turnovers again, and then they're going into the bye thinking, what the heck are we going to do about our quarterback?
I think it will be close because Zach Wilson can't afford to make any mistakes, and I don't expect him to.
Yeah.
For his own sake. He can't. The fan base will kill him.
Exactly. Not a good way to go into the bye.
All right, another divisional round matchup in the NFC North. The Packers go to currently the number 1 pick in the draft next year, Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Interesting quarterback conversation. They trade their best player. I think he's their best player. It was TJ Hawkinson, the Detroit Lions' best player on offense.
I would argue
DeAndre Swift.
Amon-Ra St. Brown when he's healthy, and then DeAndre Swift. They have names of star, right? That's what
all right.
That's what's confusing about this team, right? They have the pieces. They don't have a quarterback. We knew that. But when you have a good running back, a good wide receiver, I mean, top 10, both of those guys are top 10, if not top 5 coming into this season, right? And now you're like, okay, we've got those two things. Our defense, we're not sure about. We're rebuilding, although we got the number 1, who should have been the number 1 pick, Aiden Hutchinson, right? And now we got these guys that we're rebuilding with. And yet they haven't been able to put it together and make sense. And maybe that's because they don't have the quarterback. In the NFL, we know it's a quarterback-driven league, and Jared Goff ain't it. We know that too. So I don't know what they're doing here. That being said, they're playing the worst team in the NFL right now, the Green Bay Packers. So I do think I'm taking Detroit with the points because they've been competitive in every game they've played. Even though they've lost weapons, they traded TJ Hawkinson, I think that they are good enough to contend with Green Bay, and they know how to play this as a divisional game. If it was an even pick, I might take the Packers, but if you're giving me 3.5, I'm definitely taking the Detroit Lions here, plus 3.5. And I'm going to go with the under or the over, because I think that both of these defenses end up giving up a lot of points.
Yeah, Detroit's dead to me. I'm going Packers under. Run first game, but I do think the Packers had a little momentum in the Bills game in the second half, and they started to work some things out, right? No. Although they weren't built to come back in that game, I think they could control a football game with that cut.
They didn't work anything out. The Bills gave up. Aaron Rodgers heave-hoed a ball to Joe Smith, who was in the audience at the start of the game, okay? And he caught the ball. Good for you, buddy.
Great catch. No. That's your guy, right? Romeo Dubes.
Dubes had a good catch, yes, but the other guy was, what's his name? I don't even know his name. It's the 6th, 7th, 8th guy for the wide receiver on the depth chart. Caught a freaking touchdown pass. Shit. I don't know his name. Don't matter. He's a scrub. He should not have caught the ball. He should not have freaking had the chance to.
Yeah.
And yet the Bills just gave up in that second half. So
yeah,
that's why I think a team like Detroit doesn't do that. They're not the Bills, and they hate the Green Bay Packers. They're going to play till the last whistle, and because of that, I'm taking them with the points.
Yeah, we got to go back and check, the Detroit Lions over/under for wins, because I think we both took the over on them, thinking Dan Campbell would do something for
I did
them,
not.
right?
I took the under.
What was it set at? Do you remember?
I think it was 6 because I took the under. Yeah, and I had them
Okay.
at 5 or 4
Yeah,
on the
6
season.
seems a
still.
little high.
They were very
But
similar to some of the other teams where I said, like the Falcons, where I said they're going to be competitive in games. They're going to be a lot closer than people think, but I don't have them quite getting over the hump of, getting the wins in their column. And that's where they've been so far. Their question is, do they continue with the same coaching staff, or do they draft a quarterback and keep building in the direction they're going?
Makes sense, yeah.
Long term.
Yeah, Detroit's I've lost trust on them. I've picked them a few times this year, and they've screwed me. So they are what they thought. They are who we thought they were, right?
Yeah.
All right, Carolina, PJ Walker. Great throw last week. I mean, that guy clearly should be the starter. Should have been the starter earlier, maybe. At Cincinnati, is this kind of where the NFL's at now, though? Like players like PJ Walker who go to, I can't remember if he was XFL or USFL.
I think both. Yeah, he was out there for a while.
Well, he just I mean, I'm not sure about Sam Darnold with his injury, but he won the job over the first pick overall in Baker Mayfield. And Darnold's a top 5 pick. Because those style of players don't work in the NFL anymore. You need the PJ Walker, the guy who can throw it 60 yards on the run and can move around in the pocket. Is this a sign of more to come, or you think this is maybe just a one-off scenario?
More to come in the quarterback room, or the
mobile quarterbacks are going to rise to the top.
No,
whereas traditional.
No, I think if
I don't consider Baker,
if those 3 guys coming out of college end up in the same draft, nobody's picking Walker over either Darnold or Sam or what's his name, Scrub. But yeah, I don't think so. I think Sam Darnold is still the number 1 pick of those 3 if they came out of college together, right?
Yeah, well, I think
all having played well, all having played top of their game.
You're also assuming that the only thing we know about them is what we saw in college, which is exactly reality. But the league is changing now, where Lamar Jackson, if that draft happened again, would be in top 5 or top 10.
Knowing what we know about Lamar Jackson now.
Well, yeah, knowing what we know about what an NFL quarterback needs to be in the modern era.
Yes. For your team, right? I mean, we've talked about Josh Allen with the Bills is the right fit in the right scheme where he had time to learn and grow into the quarterback he is now. Lamar Jackson with the Ravens is the right quarterback with the right scheme. They built the team around him rather than trying to turn him into something he isn't, right? But if Lamar goes to Cincinnati or goes to, Cleveland, does that happen? I'm not confident in that. I think Lamar's a bust if that happens. So I don't think that's the case. I think the mindset of the teams going in is what sets what kind of quarterback they're looking for. The New England Patriots are not going to draft any of those guys, right? They're going to draft Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield all day long. They're not going to draft the speedy guy who can run around the pocket and heave it 90 yards. That's not the way their offense is built to work. So yeah, I don't know if it's changing the outlook, but I do love the storyline. You got to love the PJ Walker and the fact that he's beaten out 2 top 5 picks in the NFL draft. And he's playing better than they are, just straight up. They sucked going out there, and he has worse, but he's still, doing better overall. So I'm happy for the kid. I'm still taking Carolina in this game, not to win, but with the points. So I think the Bengals win, but 7.5 is too many points. Carolina's the past 2 weeks, they've given up stuff, they've traded guys away, and they've played better. So the interim coach really has them clicking on cylinders here. And I expect them to be competitive. The Bengals have had some ups and downs. They just got blown out by the Browns, right? And they kind of got exposed in that game. And now we know that Carolina, they can run the ball. Heck, PJ Walker can throw the ball. Okay, the defense of Cincinnati is vulnerable. We saw that. So I really think that this game is going to be closer than people think. I do think the Bengals come out with a win, but give me Carolina with the points here. And I'm taking the over on the points because I do think both teams put up more than 20.
Okay, yeah, Cincinnati 4-4, game behind Baltimore, but I think 2 games actually they lost to them. But I mean, they did not look great last week. looked a little lackadaisical, right? So gotta get Jamar Chase back. That's really important for this game. But I think he is scheduled to come back, right? Usually the injury guy.
I think so. Yeah, he was out for 1 week, but he was still questionable for that week, really. But then they ruled him out. He
Yeah,
should be coming
hip
back, as
issue.
far as I know.
All right, let's just assume he comes back. I'm taking the Bengals by more than 8 or more than 7.5, so by 8. And I think I'll go over on this one. Two teams that are going to pass a lot. So let's move.
Yep. I do think points will be on the board there.
All right, let's look at the Las Vegas Raiders at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Wow, the Raiders were really bad last week. And also the Jaguars were really bad last week. So
Yes.
Pick your poison here. Pick your poison. Which one do you like?
Both teams played terribly last week, but in the end of the day, the Vegas Raiders have the better roster. They have the better running back. They have the better wide receiver. I would argue right now they have the better quarterback. So give me them all day long. We've got some music playing in the background there.
Yeah, I got my
setting the mood for this pick. This is actually
one of my stat sites has an advertisement. So. Yeah, you gotta pay your dues. Gotta pay your dues.
My this is one of my pick 6, actually. I do think the Raiders have a bounce back week here. They know they need a win to even stay in the conversation of can we compete in the AFC, and if they lose, it would be embarrassing. So I'm definitely taking the Raiders. They're my number 3 pick overall. 1, 2, they're 3 at -1.5 because I think they win the game. It's basically a pick 'em. And I think they actually could win big against Jacksonville. And give me the under in this game. I don't know that I trust Jacksonville's offense to put up enough points. We know that the Raiders are capable of that with their tandem and the players they have. We haven't seen it yet this season, really. And I think this is a game where they could kind of get right, if you will. Although Jacksonville has had ups and downs of their own, and if they play at the top of their game, it wouldn't surprise me if they end up doing something crazy and pulling something out here. But I'm not confident in that. In fact, that's why the Raiders are one of my pick 6 this week.
Are we talking about Trevor Lawrence being a bust now?
Yes.
Look, Travis Etienne's look great, though. Give him credit there. They just picked up Calvin Ridley, which I'm not sure when he's scheduled. He's out for the season with his suspension.
Yes, right. At least.
Well, I mean, next year, he's a hell of a player.
Mm-hmm.
He'll help them out for sure next season. But this season's clearly a bust for Jacksonville. And got to see more from the quarterback, right? I think that's where we're at right now.
I mean, again, I've talked about Trevor Lawrence as being the Jesus quarterback, the gift from God that everybody said was going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. And he has not showed that at all. Not at all, in my mind.
And that's a good conversation because I don't think Clemson clearly did not play a pro system.
Right.
So he's got to go through the growing pains of unlearning the college system and learning the NFL pro system. Like Kenny Pickett, for example, played in a pro system, and that kind of shows. Like he looks very comfortable.
Correct.
Very early in his career.
It's not a fair comparison, I would agree.
Right.
But so he has all the talent in the world, and it's his second year, and we need to see growth and some sort of consistency, some sort of, okay, he needs to improve here, but he's really good there, right?
You've seen moments, right? You've seen moments from Trevor Lawrence, but he almost brought the team back versus the Giants. He was literally a yard away from winning that game. But yeah, he was just overhyped. So literally, we talked about this when he was coming into the league. No one's ever going to be satisfied with Trevor Lawrence because his hype outweighs anything he could do on the field. He could come in and be Pat Mahomes. He'd still have doubters because the guy was way too hyped coming into the league. So, but even then, I still think you got to see more from him. And I would say that about anybody, with a 2-6 team.
Yes.
And he really hasn't impressed me, which doesn't matter, but I don't think he's impressed a lot of people in the league. And
the Jaguars clearly building in the right direction, clearly putting the pieces together, giving him the weapons he needs, trying to keep the defense guys, all those guys they drafted together. I think he has to put it together now, right? You have to see improvement. Yeah. They don't need to be a winning team or have a winning record, but you need to see consistency. And right now, Trevor Lawrence is more the reason they're losing than the reason they're winning games, and that's not where you want to be.
And this is your number 3 best bet, Raiders. I agree with you. I'm taking the Raiders as well. Just they need a bounce back more than anybody in the league, and I'm going over on the points. Just think they both throw the ball a lot. Number 3. All right, next one. Colts at Patriots. How we feeling here? Sam Ellinger looked okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's
All right.
a rookie quarterback, and the Patriots coming off a big win over the Jets, even though, we talked about how they maybe shouldn't have won that one, and the Jets kind of gifted it to them through Zach Wilson's struggles. But this is basically deja vu, right? Indy's been playing good defense, but they haven't been consistent on offense. They have a good run game. I think New England wins this game. I just don't trust Indy at all right now.
Right.
I mean, I think they're trying to give up on the season and say, let's see what we got in Ellinger and move on from there. So I'm going the under because neither one of these teams can score points. And I just think the Patriots win by maybe a touchdown or 6 points. So I'm taking them -5.5. And if I jinx them and they lose, because whenever I pick them, they seem to lose, I'm perfectly happy with that outcome as well.
I still can't get a good read on the Colts. Are they tanking? Like, what's going on here?
Exactly. It's a mystery right now.
It's a mystery. But
they
maybe
could come out and win this game by like 3 touchdowns, and it wouldn't surprise me.
Maybe they actually do believe in Sam Ellinger. I mean, that could be the case. Maybe he has been better. Maybe he has a better understanding, better ability. We're not going to know. I don't think we've seen enough from Sam. He had a chance to drive the team down the field to get a field goal, win the game against the Commanders last week, but we had drops. Michael Pittman drops again. So it really wasn't on Sam. I thought he made some dime throws on that drive, but just, the receiver dropped it. So it could have been a different story for him. But I'm actually going to go with the Colts here. I just think it's it's a bounce back league. I definitely believe in that. And the Colts know going to Foxborough, you got to play perfect football. And I think they'll be prepared. They'll put the extra time in this week. And New England really, outside of making no mistakes, they have a really good running back in Stevenson. Damian Harris kind of falling off with his injury, so we haven't seen a lot of him. They don't do a lot of things well, in my opinion. They're just kind of they let you beat yourself, and most teams do.
Exactly.
Right? And they've always done
their
that.
wins,
but
basically,
I feel like in other New England teams, they've had more ability. Right, this passing game's bad for the Patriots.
Very bad. And I mean, there's questions at quarterback. Should they play the fourth, whatever he was, 6th round pick, Bailey Zappi, right? Like, not exactly a vote of confidence, but I don't think it's fair to Mac Jones the way this offense has been playing in general to put it on him either.
Yeah, they don't do anything good in the pass game, in my opinion. They're really good at the delayed screen that they throw on every other play.
Yes,
every single third down
but
that no team
2 tight ends, 2 running backs, and a fullback out there, and
So I'm taking the Colts with the points here. I think the Colts surprise people this week.
There you go. Okay.
All right, let's move on to Miami, who gets Bradley Chubb. Now maybe a complete football team, right? And we have the Chicago Bears, who also benefit from the trade deadline with Chase Claypool. So we'll start there.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier.
I think better piece.
I think it's a lot easier for Bradley Chubb to come in and have an impact than it is for Chase Claypool, right? But I like that the Bears brought in Claypool. I think they needed something to help evaluate Fields, and now they at least have a legitimate wide receiver, versus
I think
the guys they had in there before.
Fields has looked a lot more comfortable in the past few weeks.
Yeah, he has, and I think
he's got ability. The guy does have some unique ability.
I was talking to people before the trade deadline, friends of mine and fellow fans of the NFL, and somebody was like, "Oh, what move do you think the Packers are going to make?" And I made the argument that the Packers should be sellers, but they have nothing to sell, and the Bears are actually more in contention than the Packers are right now, and they should make a move. And when they did make this move, I was happy for them, because I at least said, okay, this is one in the right direction. Yes, they traded away their linebackers and defensive players, but they did that also with an eye on the future. They need to focus on their offense and what Fields is, and that's how they're going to build toward the future. So I like that move. But the Miami Bradley Chubb move is probably the biggest move of the trade deadline in my mind, next to Hawkinson. But I would put this one above that.
Right.
And I would say, in general, that gives them a piece they needed: pass rush ability, a guy who's a top 5 pass rusher maybe in the AFC, especially, who can get after guys like Mahomes and Allen, the top guys in the AFC. Does this put them over the hump for anything? I don't think so. They're not my favorite in the AFC all of a sudden. But I do think it gives them a boost overall, and especially in this game, where it might have been a little closer without a Bradley Chubb. I think that does give them a little bit of an edge. In fact, Miami is my number 2 bet of the week in my pick 6. Miami -4 to me is not giving their offense enough credit against the Bears, who, as I said, gave up a few of their big defensive pieces and have to make that adjustment. So I think that Miami could win by 7 to 10 points pretty easily in this one. And, because of that, they're my number 2 most confident bet of the week. Picking Miami again. I think this is like the 3rd week I've picked Miami. And I think that this game goes over the point total just because Miami's capable of putting up a lot of points and Chicago's going to have to answer that. And I think they try to do that with their dynamic run game and now their pass game that they can evaluate with Justin Fields.
Yeah, I agree. Tua's got the highest QBR in the league, but I was trying to find that image I saw earlier, and everyone's probably seen it. It's been around the internet for a day. It's the Miami traded their first round picks, for 3 great players: Chubb, Tyreek Hill, and there's another one that I'm missing. But it was a good player, and it's like, give the GM credit because this team really, I got it. They won 9 games last year. They won 10 the year before that. But this team's a legitimate contender at this point. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're a little shaky early on. Like, is this real or no? But really, the AFC East has an easier schedule, right? That helps. And these 2 receivers are unstoppable. You cannot stop these guys.
100 yards every game, no matter what both of them.
And give Tua credit. Like, we may have been wrong on Tua.
We'll see.
Because he's getting rid of the ball extremely fast this year, and his accuracy's always been good. But because he's getting rid of the ball so fast, that's the difference for me.
Yeah, he needed to show improvement, and I feel like he definitely did.
Yeah.
They're right. He's definitely done that from last season to this season, especially with the weapons he has now. He's using them, and any quarterback would. But you got to give him credit at least.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Miami. I think Miami gets to 6-3 on the season.
Doesn't want you to make the pick.
Going over. Yeah, I know. I have some safeties built in. So every time I click the Lions, Jets, and Dolphins, it doesn't let me click at first, so I can rethink.
Are you sure you want to do that?
Yeah. All right, next game here, still on the 1:00 games. The Chargers coming off the bye, taking on, everyone's been saying this, the division leader, Atlanta Falcons in the NFC South. Surprising, but really it's just the storyline is more about Tampa Bay not being good and less about Atlanta being at the top of the division at 4-4.
Yes.
So what do we think about this one?
This is my big bet of the week. Actually, I have the Chargers -3 as my number 1 bet of the week. And I think that is because of the matchup itself, right? The Chargers, although they have not lived up to anything this season, they are a good team on both sides of the ball, and they should be able to beat the Atlanta Falcons. However, they're without almost all of their wide receivers this week. Williams is out. We don't know Keenan Allen is going to play. I'm pretty sure he'll be out, which leaves Palmer as their number 1 wide receiver. And we saw this offense without those guys really stalled before. But I think they can rely on the run game and take advantage of a weak cornerbacks of the Atlanta Falcons to score points and do their main thing on offense and let their defense hold this team to less points. And with a -3 line, I just think that certainly the Chargers are going to have to win this game to establish that they are a contention team. And you have to beat the inferior teams. And although the Falcons are a division leader right now, they are an inferior team, no matter which way you slice it, to the Chargers. The Falcons have weapons, and Kyle Pitts, that offense, the run game, Mariota, we got to give Mariota credit. He's been playing well. But I don't think that they can go toe-to-toe with Herbert and that offense. So give me the Chargers -3 and give me the over because I do think points are going to be scored in this one.
Yeah, the Chargers were pretty overhyped coming in the season. But I still think they have a chance here, maybe not to win the division, but they're at 4-3. I think they're certainly a playoff team. But there is some pieces, like Keenan Allen's now he's had tons of injuries. He's at the later part of his career.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Williams is kind of he's a hell of a receiver, but he's this very slow. You know what I mean? Like he's a one-trick pony. He's 50-50 ball. He's a physical receiver in a league that's full of speed. So really, I feel like they don't have a ton of options to go to. Austin Eckler is probably their most productive offensive player,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a great player. But is he a guy that can carry your team to victories? I mean, that's what's tough. And the defense is underperforming. There's no question about that. You know, you have a defensive head coach. Any team with the popular or exciting defensive line players is always going to be hyped, and they just haven't lived up to that yet. So that's kind of the storyline on them. But I still believe in Justin Herbert, especially coming off the bye. He's had a couple down games, but it's a long season, right? Most quarterbacks do have down games. Certainly Josh Allen does. Seems to be working out for him. So I'm going to go Chargers in this one. Puts them at 5-3, and they're definitely still in the conversation. And I'm going to go under on 49.5.
Okay.
All right, Seattle at Arizona, first game of our 405 games.
Yeah.
Another divisional matchup.
Yes.
And Seattle at 5-3. Ain't no way you saw that coming.
No, I definitely did not. That is not one I saw coming. I thought Seattle would be in contention for the top overall pick in the draft. So, no, count me as one of the people who was dead wrong on this team. And in fact, Seattle, I've lost to them, I think 4 times in my pick 6 now, including last week where I only had one loss. It was the Giants to Seattle. And that is what cost me an undefeated week. The Bills were a push by 10, but I would have not had the one loss if it weren't for Seattle. So a little bitter there. However, I am taking Seattle +2 as my number 6 big bet of the week. There's a lot of games this week. There's teams on bye. Obviously, there's less games to pick from. A lot of close games this week. This one is my number 6, but Seattle, the way they've been playing makes me more confident in them to win the game. +2 is not a big margin here against the Cardinals, who have kind of been the opposite. They came off of a win where they shouldn't have won, and they still were able to pull it off. And yes, they got DeAndre Hopkins back, but there's a lot of questions about Kyler Murray and what's going on with him. And Seattle is playing at a high energy underdog mentality level, and that is where you want to be. Whereas the Cardinals are playing with, are you really, going to take another step back, and nervousness in them, I think. So give me Seattle with the advantage there, and that's why they're my number 6 big bet of the week. And I'm taking the over because both of these teams give up a lot of points. I just think it's going to end up being a shootout, and the wide receivers are going to put up crazy stats in this game. So give me the over on the points and Seattle +2.
Yeah, I'm going over as well. I'm actually going to take Arizona at home. It's a divisional game. This is their opportunity on the season. They lose this game, season's over. If they win this game, they're in the conversation for the division, right? They're only 2 games back. So this is it. I think professionals, they know where they're at in the standings. At least I hope they do. So this is the opportunity for the Cardinals, and I think they take advantage of it. All right, next 4 o'clock game, 4:25. Rams at the Buccaneers. This is just rename.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen, huh?
Yeah, it's trying to think of a sponsor here. Let's call it the Budweiser Underperforming Bowl.
That's right. This was a tough one to pick, really, because I've been saying all along that the Bucs are due for a rebound and that they're better than what they've been playing, and they can kind of brush these early losses off because when it comes down to it, they'll make the playoffs and they'll win. And the Rams struggling mightily. That offensive line has looked terrible. People have been able to take advantage of it, scheme for it, limit them, even with Cooper Kupp dealing with an injury now, which is a huge blow for them. They did get a couple of pieces back on the offensive line and, wide receiver, but man, this is a tough one. And because of that, I think it's going to be a close game. So I'm taking the Rams with the points +3. And I do think the Rams find a way to win this game just because Tampa Bay right now is still trying to figure it out. The Rams are like, okay, we've had injuries. We've got to endure. We've, deal with this bad offensive line. Tampa Bay doesn't really have the answers. What do they need to do better? Okay, they got to catch the ball better. They got to run the ball better. The quarterback is frustrated. Their defense should be playing better. It's all around chaos still. And I think that although they might improve in this game and take a step in the right direction, I don't think they come out with a win. So give me the Rams +3 and the under, just because I don't trust either of these teams to put up the points that we would have expected coming into the season.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Basically 50-50 in my opinion. And man,
yeah,
I think I go Rams here. I don't really have good reasons. I mean, both these teams have not lived up to, their potential. Both these teams, a lot of people picked for the Super Bowl. Both of these teams, I think, were 1-2 in the NFC for preseason odds to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
And that is not the case. One of these teams won't even make the playoffs at this point.
Most likely. Although it's the NFC, so
I was going to say, well, the NFC
6 or
South,
7 wins might make the playoffs.
Right, the NFC South and the NFC West, both. I think the leader in the division for the NFC South is 4-4. That's Atlanta. Seattle's 5-3. So at this point, it looks like the Rams are the longer shot to make the playoffs. But the way Tampa's been playing, I would tell you, I don't think they make the playoffs. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Tampa makes it, but barely. They're one of the last teams in, and then they end up upsetting one of the teams that won the division.
All right, so I'm going to go over. I'm going to say the Rams win this one. I like their defense better. If their defense would ever show up, that would be helpful. But just where the Buccaneers' offense is right now, I don't think it's an overnight fix. They can't run the football. They haven't ran the football all season.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's having a down year. They look frustrated. They're not on the same page. Brady doesn't know how to play football without a tight end that knows his brain, right? Like Gronk. He's tried all these other tight ends. It's just not working out. So, yeah, that's
agreed.
What I'm with. All right, next game. Good matchup here. Tennessee Titans at the Kansas City Chiefs, Sunday Night Football. How is Tennessee +12?
I don't know. Again, I guess because I almost called him Travis Henry. Derrick Henry has an injury, and a foot injury, but he's playing in this game. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And I agree. This was one that jumped out to me like, 12.5. Tennessee's 5-2 in a division leader and playing well on defense and playing well on offense, their type of well on offense. They can't pass the ball really. I guess this is indicating that they think it's going to be a must-win shootout for Kansas City, and Kansas City is going to go up by 2 scores and put Tennessee's back against the wall. And not, if that's the case, I don't know that Tennessee is going to be able to put up more points, especially, if the rookie is playing. So I just think the line is too much. If Kansas City wins, it's going to be by a much, much closer margin, 3 points, I think, or 4 maybe. And so I picked Kansas City to win, but give me Tennessee with the 12.5. I think that's a little bit too much for them. And I'm taking the under on this game just because I do think the Titans defense, holds the Chiefs to less than what they score normally.
Yeah, I'm going to go actually Chiefs 12.5. They're hot right now. They made San Francisco look silly. And I'm going to go over on 45.5 because the Chiefs, again, the Titans are a lot like the 49ers in this case, where they're just not a good matchup for the Chiefs. Some teams just can't. This is not how they play. They want to run the football and play good defense. Yep. You can't do that first Kansas City because they get up by 3 scores early. Right.
And they'll need them to make mistakes, right? They'll need the Chiefs to make mistakes, and I'm not sure that happens.
And it's a nice thought that would be close, but my opinion is this is going to be a blowout just like the San Francisco game, maybe even more than that.
Wow. Okay. Well, you're on the side of the Vegas points.
House wins. All right, Monday Night Football. We'll get more on this on Monday as our live show kicks off at 7:30 Eastern time. It's PM, not AM, obviously. But tune in for us. We'll talk more about this game. Get you ready for Ravens at Saints. Seems to be a good matchup.
Yeah, really good matchup. And I've been on the Saints, right? I've been picking the Saints last week when nobody picked the Saints. You especially. I did.
Well, we do this.
I said they would win that game.
This is our debate team. This sparks debate.
It does.
Time. But they're not good. They're not good.
That being said, I'm taking Baltimore to win this game. So
Yeah.
I do believe in
Yeah.
the Saints. They did just lose Michael Thomas for the year.
Yes.
And that's a tough blow, but they've been playing without him the last 3 weeks and doing pretty well. And Olave has really stepped up. And if they can get Landry back, that'll help them as well. So I do think I'm taking Baltimore. I'm taking the under, but the Saints are going to keep it competitive, I think, still. And the Ravens, they're just too good on offense. And now that they've added pieces on defense too, I think that they're going to, come out with a win. They're the better team. They should win this game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's no reason for them to lose this game. I think Andy Dalton's still starting. We still haven't seen Jameis Winston, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even then, to spark your team, I would put Jameis out there if he's healthy. Maybe he's not healthy, but Michael Thomas going down is a killer. We heard rumors of Alvin Kamara being traded. Didn't happen, but does that affect you? If you're Alvin Kamara and you hear these rumors, does that impact your play at all?
I don't think so, because I'm sure the organization is upfront with him on
Mhm.
what actually went down,
Right.
and the media likes to run with these stories of
Right.
everybody, oh my God, yeah, they called on this guy or they were in on this
Yeah.
guy.
It's part of the business, right?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody calls, you take the call, you hear what they got to say, and you say no. That's fine. They ultimately did not trade Kamara, so they clearly know his value to this team. And yeah, I think he is another X factor for them. If they were to win this game, it's going to be on the back of a guy like Kamara,
Right.
and somebody like Olave stepping up to make a big play.
And really, Saints get to 4-5. They're in the conversation for the division, but I do think Baltimore wins. Baltimore could be at 6-3 if that's the case. Tennessee or Kansas City will be 6-3. I'm not sure what the tiebreaker would be for Baltimore and that team, but the race is on, right? The Bills can't afford to lose any games because you have Miami right there, 5-3, 6-2. Let me check. They're 6-2.
Oh, Miami's 5-3. They were 3-3. They won the
right.
last two. Yeah.
Yeah, my brain, I picked them to win, so my brain's already going 6-3 for Miami.
6-3. There you
Anyway,
go.
you're gonna have 3 teams at 6-3 if Miami wins, Baltimore wins, and then we know Tennessee or Kansas City will be 6-3. Which of those 3 teams do you think has the best shot at the number 1 seed?
The Bills.
Outside the Bills.
I
already knew that, so I didn't put them in the conversation.
But there's only one bye, and I don't think either of them. So which one has the best shot at the number 2 seed? I think that's still Kansas City in the driver's seat for that, the way they've been playing. We know that Baltimore is beatable. Their defense has been inconsistent. We expected them to improve, but can Lamar continue to carry the team? I think that Baltimore has its limits. And Miami obviously making the big jump with adding Bradley Chubb and the way that they've been playing on offense. I'd put them probably above Baltimore and right behind Kansas City. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 in that order.
Yeah, and I think these are your playoff teams.
Yeah,
right,
for sure.
That's 5 playoff teams there. So there's 2 more. Who would you take? Let me just list them for the listeners. Buffalo would be 1, Kansas City, Tennessee, Miami, and Baltimore.
Yep.
Gets us to 5. Baltimore, Tennessee, Kansas City win their division, so they get the home playoff game. Miami would be the wild card. We have 2 more wild card spots for the AFC.
It's tough.
Who do you think gets in? I think it's the Chargers, which I mentioned earlier.
Well,
they have the quarterback to get in, right?
I think
to me that matters.
I think Cincy has to be there, right? And the Jets are still in the conversation right now. So I think it's more Cincy and the Jets before the Chargers are able to get in.
Wow.
So
the Jets certainly have the easier schedule ahead of them.
If they can hold on to it, right? They got to be able to hold on to it. And I agree that momentum can change. But right now, my pick would have to be the Jets. They're playing better football than the Chargers are overall, more consistent than the Chargers are overall. They need to improve at quarterback, but I think they can do that. And yeah, it would be crazy to think that the Chargers, after all the hype, are not going to make the playoffs this season. And a team like the Jets, who nobody really predicted would be in that position, could be the one to oust them. And I think that battle probably goes down to the end of the season, the wire, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Unless both continue in opposite directions.
Tiebreakers matter,
yeah. It's going to be down to the wire.
Yeah, because the Jets still have the Bears, Detroit, and the Jaguars on the schedule. That's 3 games that they
winnable.
Potentially
Yeah.
winnable, right? Probably won't win all of them, but I mean, it's
And the Chargers in that division,
in
it
there.
doesn't get easier. It doesn't get
Right,
easier.
right.
The Broncos are playing better. The Raiders are going to play you tough. It's tough.
Yeah, but the Jets still do have the Bills twice, Vikings on the schedule, as well as Miami. So, I mean, it's gonna come down to the wire, like
It
you
is.
said, and that's
Yep.
why the NFL is fun. But those are definitely the three teams. I don't think there's anybody else in the conversation. Let's switch over to the NFC real quick. Knock this out. Philly's number one. Right, we all know that.
Yeah, and
Yep.
who are the top two teams in the NFC?
Dallas, Philly.
Yeah.
Giants.
Come on now. No, Dallas.
kidding.
Come on
No,
now.
it's Minnesota, Philly.
My
1-2.
Super Bowl pick,
Yeah,
Minnesota and Philadelphia.
Those are shoe-ins. Those are shoe-ins.
I'm the only person on planet Earth who's picked those two teams to be in the NFC Championship game. Got more pushback for that, and those are the two best teams, hands down, in the NFC.
Well, rarely
Nobody
does
else
the
is
1
even
and
close.
2 seed make it to the championship
True.
game. Keep that in
Very
mind.
true. Very
But,
true. This might be the year. Because,
the Saints blew it for years. Packers blow it every year.
I would put Dallas in that conversation.
Dallas
correct.
is in. I think that's a no-brainer there. So that's 3. Still wide open, right?
It is.
Atlanta currently top of the NFC South. We have New Orleans and Tampa both 3 and 5. Green Bay at 3 and 5. And really, the NFC West will probably produce a couple.
Roll the dice.
I think San Francisco will get in.
Yes, I do. I think San Francisco wins the division.
So where are we at
and
now?
I think that
Philly, Dallas, Minnesota's 3. We're going to throw San Francisco in. That's 4. We still have 3 spots.
Yeah, that's why they all suck, right? So I probably give the
Seattle. We didn't talk about them.
Another AFC West team at least. So will that be if Seattle can hold on, or if the Rams make a comeback? Or
I think at this point, from what we've seen, Seattle's the better team. They're better than the Rams right now.
Certainly, right now, absolutely, and they need to maintain that for the rest of the season, right? Right, and so I could see Seattle being that team right now.
So let's throw Seattle in there. So that's 5.
That's insane, though. They're by far the shocker.
Coach of the year conversation, maybe Pete Carroll. If they win the division, they got to be in that conversation.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, that's
5. We still have 2 more here. Giants. We forgot
the Giants.
They're in.
Yeah, they're record.
They're going to get in as a wild card, I think.
They should, right? And they have an easy schedule. It's it's tough to pick the rest of the team. If those 3 NFC East teams make the playoffs, I mean, that's already 2 of the wild cards, and
we see the
division winner.
4 and 4.
I mean, right now that would be crazy.
I think you got to throw Tampa or Green Bay, not both.
I don't think Green Bay makes it, but I have been preaching that Tampa Bay, but I think Tampa Bay ends up winning the division. So I think that the Saints could sneak in as a playoff team. I think that the Falcons, if they hold on to it, but I don't believe they will.
The Saints. What is the deal with the Saints?
I just think that they're good enough to do that.
Leading the league in turnovers, leading the league in penalties.
Look, we got to get to 7 in the NFC, and it's tough. You got Philly,
7,
Dallas, Giants, Minnesota.
We already talked about Atlanta getting
Tampa.
In. So it's Tampa or Atlanta.
Seattle, San Francisco.
And the conversation's Green Bay, Tampa, or Atlanta at this point. That means the Rams don't make it, the Cardinals don't make it, the Commanders don't make it.
Yeah.
And one of those 3 teams I mentioned, Green Bay, Atlanta, Tampa, aren't going to make it. Which one?
Green Bay. They don't even belong in the conversation. Chicago. Does Chicago belong in the conversation? They're going to finish above Green Bay.
So you're thinking Tampa's going to turn it around a little bit.
I do. I do think Tampa ends up winning the division. And then I think it's between Seattle and the Saints for that last wild card spot.
Right. And this Rams Tampa game's more important than you think.
Yeah.
Rams are 3 and 4, Tampa's 3 and 5.
They really need the win. Tampa does. And I picked the Rams this week, so I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That would not.
Yeah. That's fun. I think the records are at that point. You can start to make your predictions for the playoffs mid-season.
The NFC is a shithole. That's basically that's the conclusion there, right? Like they are not doing too well.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go back and see what our predictions were early in the season. I know I picked Buffalo and Tampa for the Super Bowl. It's not working out so far for Tampa, but a lot of season left.
Bills in Minnesota.
And the Bills are getting that label. We're starting to hear that label. Can they get over the hump?
Oh, God, I hope so. That's our team. We're watching them every
I
week.
think for sure if they
This
lose,
week is the challenge. To me, this is the Bills' week. You have to put your flag in the ground and say, this again, just like we did week 1 against the Rams, just like we did against Kansas City. This is why we're the team to beat. We need to, because, there's also been talk, they're the only team without a divisional win, because we've only played Miami and we lost that game, obviously under ridiculous circumstances. But now is the time to plant your flag, make a statement win, and say, this is why we're the team to beat in the entire NFL.
yeah.
And if they do that, then they're good to go.
I don't know if the Jets are that statement team. Let's say the Bills beat them by 30. I don't think everyone wakes up Monday and the game doesn't get talked about.
Maybe, but I still think that that's what the Bills need to do. Take care of business, because then they play the Vikings the next week. And if you beat that team, that's
a fun game. They play Cincinnati, which I think will be a great game.
The end of the year, yep, Monday Night
challenge
Football
for the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
But really, they got the easy schedule. They're playing the NFC North. The AFC East is what it is. The AFC East games are tougher for Buffalo than any other game.
Exactly.
And they're playing the NFC North as well. They got Cleveland. Mm-hmm. They already beat Baltimore, already beat Kansas City, beat the Rams. So, yeah, I think the Bills, smooth sailing from here. The divisional games will be the toughest games for them. They got to play Miami again, New England twice.
New England, they should obviously beat that team at this point without question. We're talking more about the competition with the Jets than we are New England. Yeah. So that tells you all you need to know.
Bills have to win. They have to win the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Kansas City has got to go to Buffalo, not the other way around. I don't like if the Bills have to go to Kansas City again. I don't like it.
I hate that. No, I do not. I think the Bills. There was a big difference between the win over Kansas City this year and last year. That now it puts the Bills in number 1 seed contention. Last year, the Bills had 2 big losses in the AFC. They already knew they were not in contention for the number 1 seed before they beat KC in the regular
it's the same for Philly too. Like Philadelphia fans are saying the same thing. Playing in Dallas is a lot different than playing in Philadelphia in January.
Big advantage there. Yes.
Also, Tampa, where they lost last year in the playoffs, Tampa now would maybe have to go to Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Big time game changer.
Home field advantage in January.
Minnesota, though, if Minnesota's the 2 seed, they likely won't have to go to Philadelphia, but Minnesota is designed to play outside in the cold, right? They can run the ball, the short underneath game, play good defense.
Even though they play inside, they can play outside.
They're a little soft now, but their style of football,
it'll translate. It
translates to outside, right? Whereas I'm trying to think like Kansas City's not so much. They do, and they're successful at it, but playing in the North in January is just a little different. Kansas City, I don't think it's played a away playoff game in how long? Years.
Oh. Yeah. So because they've always had the home field for the last 4 years or whatever they've been in the AFC Championship game.
So really the storyline in the AFC is Buffalo can't hiccup. They can't make any mistakes the rest of the season because Kansas City's right on their ass.
Yeah, and it's a big one. Certainly.
Same storyline for Philadelphia, but they got a little more breathing room. Really, their biggest threat's probably Dallas, I would say, at this point.
And they're going to win. I mean, I think they're still going to win the division. Even if they lose the next game to Dallas, that's not going to impact.
Having the Texans here in 20 minutes is going to help them a lot. So.
Yeah, exactly. They have a much easier schedule because of where they finished last year. I throw my pick 6 up before we exit now today, just for the last bit here. Seattle was the 6 for a reason, although I do think they win that game. I'm really confident in those top 3. I love the Chargers -3, Miami -5, the Raiders -1.5, and the Vikings -3. That line has now moved a little bit in favor of the Vikings, so I'll take that. And Baltimore on the Monday night game. So, I love this pick 6 this week. Very confident in at least 5 out of the 6. Those top 3 I love. I'm definitely doing that, a parlay with the 3 teams, the 4 teams, and the 5 and the 6 this week. But I would really bet those top 3 individually and mix it up with the parlays. And that's what I'm planning to do. Last week, the Bills blew me a parlay and the Giants mixed up my other parlay. But for 5-1, it certainly was a very good week. And I expect this to be very similar in that stance.
Yeah, I like it. 5-1 last week is phenomenal.
69% I'm at now. This is insane, people.
Insanity.
Insane.
Got to keep it going. All right, folks. We'll see you. Let me get my face back on here. See you Monday evening, 7:30 Eastern Time, live on the Hoof Podcast YouTube channel, as well as Facebook and Twitter live. Be sure to check us out. Leave us a review. Tell us what you want to see. You know, I won't dance for you, but Anthony might.
I very well might.
Request it. We might do it on the show. I don't know.
Depends on how much the Bills win by.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And be sure to check out our Twitter handle at the Hoof Pod. You can buy us a beer. Link is in the bio. You know, if you like what you see, you know, we like beer. So hook us up.
There you go.
What else you got? What else we got? I think that's it.
I think that's it. The last thing, toss your hat in the ring.